So Ken, thank you so much for having us out, and this is just awesome. You are obviously doing more hands-on management than our average pond gnome client.
Right.
So we're definitely going to want to talk to you about that. But give me a little rundown of what your experience was working with the pond gnome and a certified aquascape contractor on this build overall. Tell me a little bit about your impressions and your experience.
So I think if we go back, right, so let's go back to the beginning, right, so that's kind of the best place to start with was, when I first moved in here, which is a little over 7 years ago, I wanted a pond here. This was the spot that I wanted a pond. I debated whether to do it myself. I took a hose, I laid a hose out here. There was a hose out here for years that was laying there. And so when I contacted you, you said send some pictures, send some video. And so we did that, but actually initially we talked about a pond over on that side. And then that we decided against that. One of the reasons we decided against that was we do get bees. And so my wife was like, we don't want bees by the patio. So if we put it out here, one of the benefits was the bees that would usually go to the pool are now here, right? So they're not bothering us in the pool when we're in the pool, but we're here. So like I said, the hose was here, sent you pictures, sent you video. We started talking, about it. I wanted a wetlands, on here. I had done a lot of research, and I really wanted a wetlands. My previous ponds had the aquascape bio balls.
Yeah.
They worked great. I had no complaints and stuff with that. But when I read up about the wetlands, I was like, I want plants, right? I want a lot of plants and stuff in there, and I want the the biological factor of what a wetlands does. And in conjunction with that, initially my sketch showed I wanted a negative edge, right? And so part of this, the whole process was, things change, right? So we, as we could, and initially I wanted the wetlands here, but then, we were going to be too close to the Ocotillo, so then it ended up going over there, which meant, you guys had to bring in extra stuff to make things level and build things out. And then we started digging here, right? So when we dug here, the hope was we were going to go down further. But again, we have rock, lots of rock around here. And so that's rock. Yeah, we had a hard time placing that too, when they brought that in. But when we got down here, we hit rock. I mean, I was out here the day, and I heard that, when they were digging, and I heard that scrape, and I knew that sound, right? I knew that sound that we hit rock, and so that forced us to raise things up. And initially we were going to have an intake bay on there, and I thought, I read up on those intake bays, and I thought those are cool, right? And but then by having to raise this, the intake bay just wasn't going to work over here. So once again, we had to make another change, and so we went with the negative edge. And the thing about it is, with you guys, it was easy, right? When there was when these changes and stuff came up, that was kind of the thing when we first talked, was that we clicked. I mean, and I got what I was looking for and then some. I mean, I'm just, over the moon, you might say, with the way this came out. And like you said, you look at this is a 1-year-old pond, but to look at it, I mean, it does not look like a 1-year-old pond.
So there's definitely people out there that say that the aquascape product is dangerous for fish and very difficult to maintain. Would you say that's been your experience so far?
Nope. And even when I had the bio balls and I had the skimmer boxes and the aquascape pumps and stuff like that, I mean, I never had an issue with any of the aquascape products. I mean, there's things like filter pads that over time disintegrate, but that's just natural wear and tear, kind of like tires on a car, right?
Yeah, those are things, consumables and replaceables.
Exactly.
In terms of the systems and the equipment and all that,
right?
You're a believer.
And absolutely. And when people come here and they've seen this, like at the pond tour and stuff, that they're like, well, how much time do you spend working on this? I said, I kind of spend more time feeding and watching the fish than I do on other things. I have this what do you call that, yerba manza, that weed, right? So it grows like a strawberry. So all I do is I come out and I pluck off the runners. And if I miss some and they start to reroot, I pull that out. But that's the thing. I'm out here every day. I'm out here multiple times during the day, kind of just walking around looking at things. So if I see something that's getting out of control, I pull it out, or if the plants are overgrowing something, I'll pull that out. But honestly, time-wise, I'm going to say that I think it's the wetlands. I fully 100% believe that the reason that I don't have a lot of the issues with the algae and stuff like that is because of that thing. That thing there is phenomenal. So
You're a gardener, so you're enjoying the wetland just for the gardening aspect.
exactly,
as well.
exactly. So I have, and I'm looking forward to the spring because I got all different color irises and stuff that are up in there. And since they've been in there now for a year, they're gonna start coming up. And then there's all the wildlife. Like we had for months, there was a plant I got from you. They got these little white like snowballs that were on there.
Butterfly bush.
And I had the monarchs were over that thing every day. When you come out here, it'd be like a cloud of monarchs flying around. So I had all these butterflies that were here, and they were here for months.
Yeah.
When that thing was blooming, and that thing bloomed for a few months, they were there. I also have the butterfly weed, which is actually sort of in bloom right now. And I sent you, about a month back, whatever, where there was the 2 caterpillars, that were on there. I didn't see any chrysalises. I looked for it. I didn't see any. My Egyptian iris, that same time, it was blooming. We had a little warm spell that came up, and I even noticed some of my irises were starting to pop, new growth and stuff on there. We do get cold, and you can see that some of the bacopa, water hyssop, that got hit with the
singeing at the top.
Yep, because we had the one night where it went down to 32. We had our one night of winter, and it went down to 32. And honestly, I came through here the other day, and I was kind of brushing this and whatever, and the dead leaves were falling off. So I fully expect as soon as it warms back up. And the other part of this I look at from a healthy system, right? So I look at the plants, right? The plants are growing like crazy, and I'm a plant fish guy. There's like 50.
I was going to say there's about 50 fish.
The goldfish. These are the Sarasacomets. But we've talked about this at length. I'm a fish guy, a plant guy, water guy. I got tanks in the house, so I got all kinds of testing equipment. Normally, initially I test, the ammonia for the whole cycle. Ammonia, nitrites, nitrates and stuff, and I measured that. Even after the system went up, I looked at things like iron, potassium, all that stuff. I don't test anything anymore. I look at this. Waste of time. I look at this and I look at the system and how things are growing. Why bother spending time, testing anything, right? I look at the fish. The fish are healthy. I had so many babies, that were up there in the wetlands. And it's funny, you think fish are down here, right? How the heck do the fish get up into the wetlands, right? Well, either the eggs or either the little fry, they get washed over, they go down into there, and then they make the trip, right? So they go over to slip and slide, they end up at the pump, and then the pump pumps them up there, and then they end up in that area, and that's where they kind of grow. And you actually
get up top alive.
Yes, they get up top. Now, some probably don't, but when you think about the size of a pump and you think about the size of them, they're a little speck, right? Right? So like these pumps, like they say, can handle certain size solids or whatever. Well, that little fry is a little solid that just got shot up that way. Now, some of them probably ended up at the bottom. Are they in there and are they still alive? Who knows? But with the pumps that pump on the top, that's where some of them ended up there. And actually, you spotted them first. You were here, right? And right above the cap, for the clean out for the wetlands, you spotted, it was like, Ken, look at all the little fish up in here. And so, but then some of those got big enough, they came down here. And then, the other fun, thing with it is you get to watch them change, right? So goldfish, when they're first born, they're like a silver, gray, black. I had some that were pure black that I had hoped they were going to stay black, but believe it or not, the ones that are white in there are the ones that were black. They went completely from black to white, in here. But that, to me, again, is a sign of a healthy system, right?
Yes.
If the water's, the quality and stuff like that's not good, you're not going to get the fish breeding, right? The fish aren't going to breed, they're going to die. They're going to have all kinds of problems, And then the other aspect, and this is one of those debates, some people, they want their ponds like a swimming pool, no rock, no gravel, no whatever. That's not me, right? So my view is I want rocks, I want gravel, I want this to look natural, and that's the other aspect that with this was, we wanted this to look like it's always been here. Right, that it was part of this hillside and stuff, and And that's exactly what we got, with all the rocks and stuff that we have around, the look on there. But like I said, having the gravel and stuff in the bottom, it is a little bit more maintenance for, and some people, they get a buildup, at the pond club, I hear people talking about, oh man, I got 2 inches of sludge sitting at the bottom. And I'm sitting there thinking, you got the group, they're like, take it out, don't have any gravel. And I'm there like, well, you need more flow, right? So like what we did here, right? We put in, we put in pumps, four pumps here, and I can go through that and explain them. But one of the pumps is for the bottom, so I'm pumping 5,000 gallons. We got 4 outlets, and we got 5,000 gallons an hour just pumping along on the bottom there.
Along with the aerators.
Along with the aerators, okay. And with those aerators, what I did was during the summer, I set those on the temperature. Yep. So I got one of the Aquascape, temperature devices, and then I have the Aquascape controllers. And so you can tell the controller that for this plug, for this outlet, based on time of day, different things like that, one of them is temperature. So what I did was I said, well, when the temperature reaches 80 degrees, turn on the aerators, right? So the aerators come on based on temperature.
So you're using Aquascape's automations program to do this at some level,
Exactly,
right?
exactly. Everything for the pumps and stuff like that, I got 3 controllers that are sitting in the box that I built over there. Yeah. And so, one of them is for the aerators, and then, during the summer I did it on temperature. For the winter, what I did was I did it on time. So I still run them during the winter for a short period of time. Right. But the main reason I did that was, and I did have algae, right? So I did have algae in here when it first started out, but the fish were actually one of my biggest friends when it came to that. For some reason, fish would go nuts on the algae on the rocks. But my thinking is this. So the thinking is this. So one of the things, again, talking about having done aquariums and all the fish tanks and stuff like that, is when the temperature got warm enough last year, up at the top there, I bought a bag online. I bought a bag of these things they call scuds, and they're like little shrimp, the scuds. And then I bought this other thing called Daphnia, which are much smaller, and I put those in the wetlands. So those guys like to eat detritus, they like to eat algae and stuff like that. So there's probably millions of them living in that wetlands down in there. And they'll get all the way to the bottom. They don't need light, so they'll get all the way to the bottom, and they'll eat the detritus and stuff on the bottom there too. Well, they also get in the pond. And so when they're in the pond, they live in that algae. And so I could see when the lights came on, you could see them swimming around in front of the lights. So they would start to come out. Well, the fish were basically going after the algae to eat those, the Daphnia and the scuds, right? Absolutely. Especially the smaller ones, because that's what helped the ones up there live, because I could go in there at night, shine a flashlight, and I could see them swimming around. So these guys, they were tearing everything up in there. They were making a mess. And what I noticed was with the aerators, they were like, kind of like a volcano thing. So as the algae would float towards that, it would push it up into the water column, right? So as it would push it up into the water column, the things on the bottom, the jets on the bottom were keeping it from settling, and then it would go right over the overflow. Yep. And then it would get over that way. If there was any big chunks, I could pull it out. Anything small, once again, most likely ended up at the bottom of the wetlands.
In the settling chamber.
In the settling chamber.
Cleaned out easily at the end of a year. So
yep.
Basically our flow rate, anything that floats on the top of this pond for longer than 5 minutes,
is that way.
Goes bye-bye.
Yes. And that's why I built the ring. That's where I feed the fish. Yeah. So I built that out of sprinkler tubing, sure. Right? And I put that over there, and when the fish see me over that way, they just all congregate. They know to go to the ring to get fed.
So because of the amount of flow we have and the fact that things flow off faster than the fish can clean it up, you created a feeding ring to hold the food where the fish could get to it before it flowed out.
But what's interesting is, even though, because we have, when all 4 pumps, right now 3 pumps are running, the 4th pump isn't on right yet, but when all 4 pumps are running, I'm probably getting like 15,000 gallons an hour going over this, right? And, so right now it's got to be, I don't know, even maybe 10, 12,000 gallons. But the thing I found interesting was with the water lilies. Now, I would have expected them to get pulled that way because of the flow. Well, even though I have all of these positioned where they are, they stay stable, right? So they're not getting pulled. So there's a lot of flow, but because we have a wide area, it's not like having a stream kind of effect, right? You're not getting that blast that's going through one area, it's getting dispersed. So even having all the water lilies where they're at, and they took up pretty much from the over. There's one that's on the right side where that waterfall is. The first one's there, and it goes all the way around to here, and that whole almost a third or more was just full of leaves during the summer, right? And the fish, they loved it, right? Because now they have shade, right?
Foraged it,
So
sure.
we have we do have the caves that are in here. We put like 3 different caves and stuff like that in there. But they love that because so during the summer they're hanging out underneath there getting some shade because I get there's no trees. I get sun all day long, and that's the other thing is sun all day long. And everybody tells you you can't have sun on your pond all day long. You're going to get algae.
So
right?
you're measuring the temperatures in here.
Yep.
What was your top temperature this last summer?
Top temperature was like 84.6.
You can't even keep your swimming pools that cool.
Right. My pool was hotter than this thing.
There you go. Swimming pool right there.
Yep.
It ran warmer than the pond did, and there's no shade whatsoever on this pond.
Nope. And I was amazed with that. And then at night it would drop. Some nights it got it probably go down to 79 the temperature. And what I found is that the pond temperature wise tends to like if it goes up to 80 degrees, the pond will start climbing up, but there's a lag, right? That's in there. So the temperature goes up faster than because the volume of water, and so the temperature itself will come up slower, so it kind of lags, stays warmer, and then dips back down again. So you kind of have you got the sine wave of the sun going across, and you got the temperature basically as a sine wave following that pattern with the sun. But yeah, it doesn't overheat when it comes to,
One of the reasons is because we've got a tank of water at the base of this, at your zero, your skimmer system over here. We've got a cistern that's holding 1,000 gallons or more of water at all times. Plus you got your wetland has got a couple of 1,000 gallons in it, sitting down without any sunshine on it. And you've got the lily pads that grow in the summertime and shade half the pond. So it keeps the water temperature very stable. So people that say you can't have a pond in full sun, dead wrong. You can absolutely have a pond in full sun, and the lilies will thrive.
Yes,
correct?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I had, so many, and it was funny because I bought one of these, it was like, here's a grab bag. We'll send you whatever water lilies, I got from a place online, and they sent me 2, 2, and 2, whatever the colors were. They were some of the most gorgeous lilies that I, there were ones that were white, that were huge, and one of them is even one of those, I have tropicals, and then I have the standard water lilies. Well, they sent me one of those hybrids, which is, it's cold hardy, but the flower sits proud of the water surface like a tropical. But it's not a tropical, so it's one of the hybrids that they had come up with.
Nice. It's something you can't see right now, but we'll do some B-roll shooting that you're probably looking at right now in the video. But what's cool about this pond is it's a year old, and I always promise people green fuzzy rocks in a year-old pond. I can still see the quartz striations in the rocks, the color of the gravel on the floor. Ken's got this thing running so clean, I don't see any algae anywhere. I got a little bit algae in the top of this waterfall over here, and the water is very, very cold, which is the time of year that we tend to grow algae here in Arizona. I've never seen a pond running this clean in its first year, ever. It's the first time I've ever seen this before. And it's because of some of the stuff that Ken has added to this after the fact that we're going to learn from, and we're going to start incorporating into pond builds in the future that people want their ponds to run this clean. But Ken, your enthusiasm for water gardening and for water maintenance is off the chart, and we're going to spend time learning that this is one of those things that's such a joy. I've been at this 25 years, and I'm learning as much from this client as I've learned from half the manuals I've read. So Ken, thank you. Appreciate your enthusiasm.
You're welcome. I appreciate you and your guys, for going. I mean, it was a journey. I mean, we went through. I mean, you guys, when you first started putting,
idea.
I can imagine. I was a business owner. I can imagine.
Right.
But you got your guys spent I mean, the poor guys putting us in with the temperatures that summer we had. When you started this thing, it was over 105 and
Summer install, North Scottsdale, no shade.
no shade.
Incredible project though. Really
Yeah.
turned out nice, and thank you so much, Ken. I
Oh,
appreciate
you're
your
welcome.
time on it.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Awesome.